Alright, what's going on YouTube? Today we're going to take a look at some of the best, well, at least in my opinion, third-party programs, applications, and websites to improve your game and understand better how good of a player you really are. Before you guys freak out and ask in the comments whether the usage of any of these programs can get you banned, then no, none of the stuff I am about to show you can get you banned. Also, I'd like to assure that I'm not being paid by any of these websites. I use them personally and have found extremely helpful in my development as a player. Finally, every single resource we're about to discuss is free to use and for the most part works with a donation system. So if you like any of the tools I'm about to show you, then please consider donating to the developers or purchasing the pro version for the software. Without further ado, let's jump right into the programs. Alright, so to kick it off, we're going to take a look, first of all, at a web page that I think is extremely important and that not a lot of people give enough credit to. That would be the League of Legends Wiki. Here you can really find just pretty much about everything that has to do with the game. So if I want to find out about a specific champion, we're here at the home page. If I want to find out a little bit more about Echo, I could just open it. And, oh, there you go. I could learn about Echo's abilities, because as it turns out, if you take a look at the abilities on Riot's champion ability thing on the client, it's not really as verbose as you would like it to be in order to really find out how well the abilities scale. For instance, I'm pretty sure while you're playing, all you get is like a number. And what, for example, here on the percent AP that you get from his passive, in the Z Drive Resonance, you don't get that plus 80% that is written here. All you get is the actual value of damage that you're gonna deal. And I mean, that's pretty useful, but sometimes you need to know that before you invest heavily on either AP or AD when you're playing X or Y champion. So whenever you're actually gonna get into a new champion or whatever, it's really good to come here and check out information about that champion so you know exactly what to build and when to build. I mean, there's certain mechanics and interactions that are just hidden from the client, and that's information which you can't access directly. So in order to really know how the game works, you're definitely going to have to come over here and check out different web pages for different champions. Now, going back a little bit to the topic of actual champions, specifically for ADC, which is the thing that I play the most, actually kind of only play that anyway. But what you could do, and it's very important to know the range of your ADC and the enemy's ADC. So here, for instance, if I wanted to know the range of Caitlyn, which is 650, I could just hover over Caitlyn's profile picture, and I would know here from the different stats that are displayed that she has a certain amount of health, and that's when she reaches level 18. And the range is static, so I would always know that she has 650 range at all moments in the game. Or like Ashe's range, which is 600, for instance. Those are actually some of the highest range ADCs. But whenever you're going to bump into an enemy ADC, it's very useful to know the range that they have on their auto attacks to measure how much you can harass them on lane. So that's just like one of the many usages. And if you ever forget one of those, you just, before the game starts, you just think about it, come here and check it out. And it's quite simple, actually. Next up, we have OP.GG, which I would consider it to be probably the most important website you can use as far as League of Legends information and general player knowledge is concerned. This doesn't really go too deep into what the champions actually do, but rather how they perform in the metagame and how players play the champions, if that makes any sense. And actually keeping track of player stats as well. So let's just take a look here real quick at my account. Actually, I have them here on recent, but I could just look it up here. All right, so let's look up my summoner name. I made sure this is on Latin American North. And it displays my whole match history. As you can tell, I'm probably not doing very well, but that's besides the point. Just ignore that. Anyway, just from a glance, it looks like there's a lot of information, but it can be easily broken down. Here, the latest 20 games get displayed, and you get a win-loss ratio for how you're doing in those games. And then you get a kill, death, assist average, and your kill participation is in this red pointer. Actually, it's even highlighted when you mouse over it, so that's pretty cool. On top of that, you get most played champions and the win rates on them. And then after that, you get the preferred position, which is also a big deal. And overall, you can see whenever you're scouting for players, if for instance you're in solo queue, you see someone that wants a specific role, and say for instance someone asks me for ADC. I only play ADC. So if someone asks me for ADC, I'm expecting to give out the role if that player is significantly better than me. So I usually come over here, look them up, and then if they are significantly better than me, then I just hand out the role, and if not, then I just tell them that I don't want to hand out ADC. So that's just one of the many usages it has. Over here you can check out every single individual match from those 20, and you can actually expand here with the show more button. That would display a lot more games. And over here we can check out the specifics of the match, which is actually a pretty big deal. Over here you get the damage charts, pretty much just like at the end of the game. This is extremely useful to check out how a person likes to build a champion, how much damage they deal usually, which champions do they carry on harder. For example, here if we go over to team analysis, I can't quite remember what this does. It's like gold earn and whatnot. You really have to just come over here and check out all the cool stuff they have, because OPGJ is massive. They have like a lot of different functionalities that just cramming into a 5-minute video, it's not that simple. Here's the item build path and the ability scaling for every single ability throughout the game, runes, masteries, all that stuff. And by the way, if I ever forget to post runes and masteries on a game, you can just come over here and check them out. If you remember which game is which, right? But anyway, the experience, overtime, gold acquired, all that good stuff. You can pretty much just dissect a whole game with that tool. And let me just jump over to a real player's account here real quick. And over here we're on Doublelift's page. Now this is pretty much the same thing, but if I wanted to see how he's playing certain champions, for instance Xayah, I feel that Xayah is extremely strong right now, and if I was having a rough time playing her, then obviously if she is strong overall and I am the one having trouble, then clearly the problem lies with me. So I could look around with other ADCs and see how they're doing playing the champion. So here he went pretty well, pretty good CS. So I could open this game right here, and I could immediately just take a look at something as simple as itemization. So people like going Blade of the Ruined King on Xayah. I think the build is awful, and it seems to be the consensus that going Borg first item on Xayah isn't necessarily the best. I mean, of course there are scenarios where it is, but the point is that it's definitely very useful to look up other players as well as yourself. And actually, when it comes down to champion select, we got something actually really cool here from OPGJ. Okay, so this tool from OPGJ is actually extremely useful because it's kind of a condensed version of that big page layout I just showed you. So if you're just starting a solo queue game and you want to see how people perform in the positions they got, and their rank, etc., how they do well on which champions, their win percentages, etc., right before a game, it's extremely useful to just copy and paste the chat log for when they join the room, and just paste it here, and you get the entire information for everyone in the match, at least in your team, right? So you can pretty much just scout here very quickly and see how well different players perform in their positions that they got before the match. Now obviously I just picked the entire Rocks team here just to showcase it. People don't actually play on this account. It seems like there are some low level accounts. I just added mine, for example, here. And apparently whoever plays on Rocks Peanut still plays quite a bit. He's Silver 3, but I mean, I don't think Peanut's Silver 3 in Korea. That'll be pretty ridiculous. But that's pretty much the idea. You just look up people's different accounts here. Very quickly you can tell that this guy, for instance, plays a heck of a lot of ADC, and he's played quite a bit, his rank, his preferred position, etc. So it's an extremely useful tool. This one, however, has disappeared from the layout of OPGJ's main page. It's just not there. So in order to actually access it, I had to keep the link to this bit of information. So the link will be in the description along with everything else that we've covered so far. And yeah, that'll be about it for OPGJ. Go ahead and just look up a bunch of stuff. It's extremely useful, and I highly recommend OPGJ as your main source of League of Legends knowledge. One very quick thing that I actually forgot to say about OPGJ is that they have something that is an MMR calculator. We talked about MMR last week. I'm pretty sure it was like 2 weeks ago. I can't quite remember. And MMR is not as straightforward as just like a number that can be obtained from Riot's database. It's not that simple. They actually have to calculate it, and it's weighted separate and without Riot's consent, quote unquote. So when you look up here your solo MMR, this number doesn't actually represent your real Riot MMR. It's not that simple. This is hidden away from everyone, including OPGJ. So what they do is they approximate depending on your LP gains on games and the relative LP gains from other players. So pretty much your MMR should be around here when it comes to Riot's side, but like not really. So don't freak out if you touch this button and your MMR is X or Y. It really, this doesn't make any sense. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not actually your MMR. It's an approximation that OPGJ does. Okay, so the next one I wanted to show you guys is actually a mobile application that allows you to search data much like OPGJ, but optimized for a phone. So I'm here at my phone here. I'm gonna open it. It's called Lowell History. So basically what the application does is exactly the same as OPGJ. If I open here my summoner name, I get the recent history of matches here, which is exactly the one we just saw a second ago. We get champion performance, etc., but on the go. So if you actually try to download OPGJ's mobile application, it's not very nice because all it does is open a browser window to their mobile website, and it's not quite as polished. So I think I really like this application, at least from for a phone. It looks really nice. If I go to a specific match here, we can take a look at gold, etc., performance per champion, much like OPGJ's usage, but for a phone. So that's pretty much what it is. It's just like OPGJ for the phone. If you actually need to look someone up whilst you're like away from a computer, you can just use this very easily. So we've seen gameplay mechanics pretty much condensed into the wiki, and we've seen player stats condensed into OPGJ and LoL History. But what about the metagame? What about what people feel like is good? What about tips about how to do well in certain lanes or certain matchups or whatever? For that, we come over to Reddit. Now, Reddit in general is actually really cool. The website overall, it's not a League of Legends thing. League of Legends just happens to be one of the many things that are discussed on Reddit. But what's useful here is that there are several subreddits to help you out as a new player, or as a low elo player, or as a high elo player, whatever. There's definitely certain things that you can't really measure in numbers, and it's a lot better if you have like a human discussion about actually, improving at the game at certain aspects and whatnot. So over here we have a board, and there are different topics right here at the top. The ones pinned here are pinned by moderators of the subreddit. That's what it's called. This is the League of Legends Summoner School subreddit. So it's all about learning new champions, new strategies, whatever. So for instance, right here, this guy just posted something that went by the title of General Tips and Knowledge that Struggling Low Elo Players Should Have. So let's open that one real quick. Tap to it. So there are different topics that are being introduced here and there. So I suggest you create a Reddit account and actually subscribe to these different subreddits, because it's really useful. Sometimes something catches your eye and you learn something that you didn't know beforehand. So, for example, this guy's here giving here a lot of advice. This is completely free. There is like nothing you have to pay for this, and on top of it, you get the discussion at the bottom with other people stepping in and maybe correcting sometimes, and sometimes just clarifying some of the points that probably the poster didn't really address enough. So it's also a very important way to like, and also keep up with the game. Let me just alt tab here to another different subreddit. This one's called League of Legends Meta. So right here you can learn about the League of Legends metagame, and people pretty much asking things about the viability of certain champions. Maybe they theory crafted a build, they posted a bunch of math here, so they tell you, I don't know, Blade of the Ruined King on Ashe is better than going crit, for example. So it'd be posted here right away, and it's actually extremely useful. So it's another one of those websites that I would definitely recommend. Finally, I wanted to show you LoL Replay 2. Now this one is actually pretty much just as cool as OPGJ was. It's kind of core to how I scout League of Legends and play right now, and it is mostly due to the functionalities it has in-game. So we're going to take a look at those in a second, but also very useful is, remember, when you're a struggling player or you really want to figure out what you did wrong throughout a game, it's also very useful to make sure you watch the games you play after you've played them. So one of the many functionalities this have, like I said, with most of these applications, you're going to have to download them or enter the web pages yourself and take a look at what they actually do by yourself, because it's impossible for me to I could go on for hours here. But essentially with LoL Replay, there's a lot of different things you can do. First off, we're going to take a look at replays and statistics. This is my entire match history, again from start to finish. In order to actually record the matches with LoL Replay, it's not like with OPGJ where you get all of the data regardless of whether you have the page open or not. So whenever I play League of Legends, I make sure that LoL Replay is also open so it can record the different matches that I play. So here, if I wanted to watch any of these matches, all I have to do is hit this start replay button right here, and bam, that's it. I would watch the match from start to finish, and it's usually what content creators also use to put on replays as backdrop for videos, for example. But most importantly, as an improvement tool, you can come over here and take a look at, well, the item builds and whatnot. We would use OPGJ for this kind of stuff, but the replay functionality is really what is extremely important here. There are filters to look throughout different replays and whatnot. And then here we would have a chart. I don't think I use this chart very often, but if you just installed it, you can probably pretty much just have an idea of how well you do on individual champions. Now, like I said, this would only start recording the moment you install it, so it's not going to pull from Riot's database. It's not going to have its own database. But as you add more and more games, you gain a lot more knowledge about your overall performance. So that's actually pretty useful. And this is also huge. This right here is the amount of CS KDA, gold per minute, and whatnot of you compared to other players. And this is also very general. This takes into account low elo players, but you would notice, you'd be really surprised to notice just how important it is to have all those little bars green. For example, I have 4 of the 7 bars that are actually green, which means that I outperform other players in those specific points. Now, obviously, if you're a support main, you wouldn't care if your CS is low, or if you're an AD main, you don't mind your wards place to be that low, because at the end of the day, you're playing AD carry and not jungler or support. But what's important to take from this is just your overall metric compared to other players. It's very easy sometimes when you're trying to analyze your own play to fall into the presumption that you're better than most of the other players, and this can be a real revelation as to how good you actually are. And then on top of this, there's also all the other stuff that goes inside the game. So I'm gonna have to actually go into a game and show you exactly what I mean by this. Okay, now that we're actually in game, the final part and probably the most important part is remember how in OPGJ before the game started we actually had to grab everyone's names, put them in a box, look them up, and go through all those steps to find out information about the different summoners that are in our game. Well, here it's a lot easier. All I have to do, since I have LoL Replay installed, is just hold this button. You can change it to whatever button you want. I have it on the number 8 on my keyboard, and it shows me the statistics for everyone, and you actually get to pick and on the settings bar what information gets displayed. So here I have the division for this for solo queue, for flex, ranked statistics, the current role they're in, and that percentage in the role means actually how much they actually play the role. I play AD carry 86.7% of the time, and the champion statistics, which on this percentage here is the win percentage. Of course, my win percentage of Caitlyn is awful, but yeah, it's extremely useful. You'd get to see this for everyone in the game. The top box would be your team, and the bottom box is the enemy team. And the runes also, this is so useful. The runes and masteries are also a huge deal when it comes down to this kind of stuff. You can check this out while the game's loading, which is also pretty cool. And on top of that, there's also another button for the death recap. So whenever you die, this would show up on your screen with accurate information, unlike Riot's death recap. Riot's death recap is all over the place, and it doesn't actually portray how you actually died. This gives you percentages of health loss. Well, not necessarily percentages, but the amount of health you lost from every single source is listed here, and it's a lot easier to interpret than Riot's little death recap that is completely useless. So that'll be pretty much about it when it comes down to all of the software I was gonna show you here. Hopefully, if you guys know about any other kinds of software that do similar things or maybe cooler things than the ones I've showed here, please post them in the comments, and maybe I could do like a part 2 of cool third-party applications that can drastically improve your experience as a League of Legends player. So that'll be pretty much about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.